Hi, this is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and tonight we're going to talk about the relationship of corporations and community and the interactions and or responsibilities. Is there a responsibility for corporations to the surrounding communities? What's your take on it, Tom?
Well, first, I'm thinking of the words corporation and community. Um, I think everyone has a definition for the word community. Is it just, well, the people down the street? Is it people who are in your social network? Or is community, does that mean people of same ethnic background or cultural background? Um, Now we have the geographic location, Jamaica, Flushing, other cities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does a corporation fit in if this is a national or international entity? How does that fit into what we mean by community? Now, we could be working in a branch of that corporation. So, in that sense, part of that corporation is in the community. But is it really part of the community? Or are we just existing, doing our work there?
Well, that's an interesting concept, especially considering that I work for a business improvement district, which is a not-for-profit corporation inside the community that's specifically designed to serve the businesses and the residents in its particular district. Now, you expand that conversation. So does that mean that we exclude any of the residents that are outside of our district? No, that doesn't make sense. They're part of the community as well. For me, I see there's an obligation of any corporation, be it big or small, that operates in the community, some, at least availability to establish a relationship with that community. Now, it could be through the community board, could be through a local college that's in the area, because you've got the students that are all part of the community, even though they may be live outside of the community, but they're part of that particular body of community. You've got residents, you've got businesses, um, and you've got property owners, all part of the community. So, what's the relationship and/or commitment to the community?
When we talk about that idea of commitment, um, we may be actually looking at different points of view. When we say community in the real sense, there is this idea of a sharing, the idea of we're all going to contribute something to each other. When we say the word corporation, I don't think we're speaking the same language. We're speaking of a different point of view. How do we maximize income? And when you try to bring the two together, yes, the corporation wants to maximize income by working with people in the community so they can benefit with their dollars. But if there is a disagreement, this is not coming about from this idea of sharing. It's coming about from how do we get what we want in our dealings with a group of people.
You're absolutely right. It, one of the things that I see and struggle with, you've got these what they call anchor businesses, corporations that are in the community that don't necessarily consider the community. They they are focused on their corporate mission, which is to provide whatever service they do and to maximize profit. But you pointed to something that I think is very interesting. What if the mission, part of the mission was to enrich the community? By enriching the community now has more economic development or more funding coming into that particular community. That benefits the corporation and it also benefits the community. You know,
Now, generally, what you just described is part of the Mondragon Corporation in Spain.
okay,
Mondragon, however, is a worker-owned co-op, and they have that mentality because they are worker-owned. They employ a lot of people. I forgot the figures, but it's one of the largest corporations in Europe, in the world. But it's worker owned. So you have that sense you're talking about, enriching the area, the community. But that's not the pattern of most corporations that are not worker owned. Workers sometimes are lost in the shuttle because they're someone else is making decisions for them on the corporate side.
absolutely. And you're right. A worker owned is going to look at the community very, very differently. What I've found to be interesting is when someone from the local community is in leadership in that particular corporation, there tends to be much more relationships with the surrounding community. And and I don't know if this feels more responsible, but there seems to be more of a give back to the community. Um, I'll give you, for example, one of the local uh, not-for-profit CDFI community um, development corporation sponsored a 5K run just recently. And they did it in partnership with the YMCA's and the Resort Worlds and a bunch of other different corporations that were local that they pulled together, but they were the organizing factor in this 5K run. And the 5K run was about providing some health benefits to the community by having a run walk 5K. So they, to me, demonstrated through this event their commitment to the surrounding community. Now,
Okay.
now they made a little bit money from the race, so I know that but it wasn't about making money for the race. It really was for providing the service for the people inside of health.
Now, you were also talking about the community benefit agreements. Um, would you go into some detail about that?
Absolutely. So the community benefits agreement is really a, a partnership that the developers who are coming into the community who are going to develop anything, develop a commercial space or a mixed use, so the commercial on the first floor and residents above, they come in and they make a lot of money. They have workers, the developers, obviously are in it to make a profit. The community benefit agreements identify some projects that they can now fund that will support the community. For example, um, funneling off some of that profit to a community center, providing, maybe equipment, maybe computers, maybe uniforms for the sporting events that community center is involved with. Um, Supporting the businesses, the local businesses. So maybe they have events at local businesses at different points in the development project, the milestones. So maybe they have a milestone of opening the conversation, and they have it at a local restaurant, so that again, the local businesses become part of the expansion of the community, because they've now got this new development, and the developers actually provide something for the community. Oftentimes, what happens is developers come in, they make their money, and they're gone. They've disrupted the community to whatever extent, because construction, you've got to block roads. Sometimes you've got to inconvenience the community, not necessarily for long periods of time, but the noise, the congestion, the blocking of streets, and so on and so forth, is an inconvenience to the community. So the community benefits, to me, creates a buffer so that the community can actually receive some dollar benefits, some hard dollar benefits that they can now say were provided by this particular development project.
Adding to your comments, I'm thinking of a show we did a while ago where we mentioned what Amazon wanted to do in Long Island City. Um, Actually, the plans were ignoring the community, because prior to that, the community had some plans for low-income housing that would help a lot of people who don't have housing. That was all changed by the Amazon plans. Now, it's true Amazon never was able to fulfill anything because everything fell apart. However, this is an example of a corporation wanting to come in to an area and not really listening to what the community wanted. How do we prevent that?
Well, I think it got prevented in this particular case because people realized that the plan for additional affordable housing wasn't going to get implemented. And and when you looked around at what the corporation wanted to do, as you said, was not consistent with the vision. Now, how do we hold them their feet to the fire? Well, part of that are the elected officials who are part of the deal, part of the negotiating. We've got city council members who are in that particular district, and should be taking the lead in terms of supporting the community's needs. You also have the community board and other agencies that are there to help support the community.
What do we do, though, if we have those people being influenced by lobbyists from the corporation to twist their arms?
Well, that, my friend, is one of the standard blockades for development that is congruent to everyone, as opposed to being specialized for certain parts or sectors of the community. I think that the spirit of it has to be that everybody wins, not just a special group wins. And I think um, that has to be held both by the elected officials, and the community residents have to be active in that conversation.
That spirit is part of the sharing of the
Yeah,
concept of community, but it often is not part of the mentality of capitalism.
true. And that, my friend, is the issue that we bump up against all the time, especially with the relationship of the corporations to the community. How do you bridge that gap? How is it amicable for both the community and the developers, or a corporation that's already there? Let's say it's a hospital or a college. what's their relationship to the community? Are they interacting with the community? Are they providing just communication to the community? And that doesn't always happen.
Um, what would you say in closing? What would you like to see happen more often?
Tom, let me tell you, I would love to see that every time anything gets developed, there's a community benefits agreement put in place before anything is signed on the dotted line, before that first shovel goes in the ground, that a community benefits be looked at and agreed upon and negotiated, because it's a negotiation, because of course the corporation doesn't want to give too much, but sometimes you have to kind of bend their ear. Well, listen, you're coming in and you're making a lot of money off of this deal. And you're, impacting the community. What are you going to do to make the community whole?
Um, Earlier, you mentioned that the Amazon um, plans fell apart because people reacted to it. Now, people can only react if they have information, and how they get information is very important. If people didn't learn about what you're talking about now or Amazon, they won't be in a position to understand how the corporation could be hurting them.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's almost like we need some new forms of reaching out and communication to people in the community so they can be aware of what's happening.
Well, the communities have to have people who understand the rights and understand the construction industry so that they can be a player in that conversation, because um, there are huge amounts of dollars being um, passed back and forth, and the opportunity is really, the community doesn't want to take a lion's share of it, but they want to be treated fairly and reasonably. And for me, I think that that's the least a corporation can do, is to be able to reach out to the community and find out what the community is interested in, and be able to help fund some things that may not have the funds that they need. You know, uh, a community center, an educational center, that provides computer training for young and old. Um, you know, all of these things are important factors in the development of a community, because the truth is the corporation really wants the community to win. The interesting part is, are they willing to invest in the community that they reside in? And that's the kind of like the moral part of the conversation, the moral obligation of the corporation to the community. And some have it, and let's be honest, and some don't. And it's about that community to incite, or to suggest or recommend, here's a great opportunity for you to invest in the community. um, Uniforms for the football team, uniforms for the basketball team, equipment, soccer equipment, goals, balls, and so on and so forth. A recreation center that can now be open to the community to bring in their youth to do training. There's so many things, and it doesn't have to break the bank, but it's an opportunity to really to be in relationship. And that's what we talk about on these videos. What's the relationship to community? What can you provide? What's available? And place to start is an open dialogue to discover what our needs are. What are your needs as a corporation? What are our needs as a community? Let's you know, meeting of the minds and go forward.
Well, if you like what you've been seeing, get in touch with us at our Facebook page. Um, Tell us about yourself. What problems in the area of community and corporations are you facing? Let us know.
And don't forget to like us and subscribe to us so that more and more people can find out about the information that we're talking about. And as Tom said, come join us. Come interact with us. Leave communications and responses so that we can respond with you. And you don't have to live in New York City to have this issue. So join in. We look forward to interacting with you. Thank you.